It is September 30th, 2021. This is the Calvary Briefing. Thanks for watching. Several years ago, when our oldest child was looking at colleges, he became interested in a small Christian college just north of Chicago by the name of Trinity International University. All three of our kids ended up going to that school. And one of the reasons that I looked at that college in a positive way was that I knew of only one faculty member that was there, but he was a really great faculty member, and his name is D.A. Carson. Carson is a scholar with a pastor's heart. He's written almost 60 books. He's edited many others. He has benefited the church in America and around the world. And I'd like to share with you from a recent article that D.A. Carson wrote entitled, "Who Will Stand in the Gap?" based on Ezekiel 22, verse 30. I looked for someone among them who would build up the wall and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land, so I would not have to destroy it, but I found no one. Well, in this article, Carson wrote about the fact that he doesn't really have a life verse, but God has used His Word and particular verses at particular times to impact him. He recently has had to speak before some rather hostile crowds in Great Britain, and so Psalm 36:1 has been a help. I have a message from God in my heart concerning the sinfulness of the wicked. There is no fear of God before their eyes. At many points in his life, Lamentations 3, verses 21 to 24, has been a blessing. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for His compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion. Therefore, I will wait for Him. But it was Ezekiel 22:30 that had a deep impact on Don Carson that sent him from being a chemist to being a minister and a professor for Jesus Christ. It all happened when Carson went to a Sunday evening service at his home church in Montreal. A missionary from Haiti was speaking on Ezekiel 22:30. Who will stand in the gap? And Carson said, my response was an Isaiah 6 response. Here am I, send me. D.A. Carson's father was a faithful pastor in Canada for many decades, and he taught his children to pay attention to the context of verses in the Bible. And the context of Isaiah 22 is 6th century Israel in full-blown rebellion to God. God's wrath is about to be poured out on Judah because no one has shown up to stand in the gap. Carson writes, to apply it to myself, I implicitly deployed an argument by analogy. Just as God sought someone to intercede with Him on behalf of His sinful people more than 2.5 millennia ago, but found no one, so too God seeks someone to intercede with Him on behalf of His sinful people today. Will He again find no one? It is a powerful appeal. I found it so as a young man, and I still find it so today. Years later, Carson heard another preacher on another Sunday evening, this time in Great Britain, bringing out more of the meaning of Ezekiel 22. And as he went through these verses, this preacher reminded D.A. Carson of the days that Ezekiel was written. The princes conspired together to devour people, to take treasure and precious things and make many widows. That's Ezekiel 22:25. The priests do violence to my law and profane my holy things. Ezekiel 22:26. The officials are like wolves tearing their prey. They shed blood. They kill people. They make unjust gain. That's Ezekiel 22:27. The prophets whitewash these deeds for them by false visions and lying. and saying, "This is what the sovereign Lord says," when the Lord has not spoken. And the people in general in Ezekiel 22:28 practice extortion, commit robbery, they oppress the poor and the needy, and mistreat the foreigner, denying them justice. The days of Ezekiel were dark days, and out of these dark days, God called for someone to stand in the gap. There are times in the Bible when we see that God appoints people. He appoints prophets, priests, kings, apostles, and even gospel preachers. But in Ezekiel 22, God is looking for an intercessor who, by God's own appointment, blocks God's way, as it were, much like Moses did in the book of Exodus. Carson closes this article by saying that the call of God to stand in the gap is as much needed today as it was when he was first called out by this verse decades ago. These days are dark. There are gaps in our world where no witness of God is standing. And each one of us today is in an area of darkness. Each one of us today can see a gap where no one from God is standing. We see darkness. We know that in darkness, the number one need is light, and the light of the world is Jesus. I simply ask you today to look at your world, see the gaps around you. Will you listen to Ezekiel 22:30 today? Will you stand in the gap?